Hi, welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'll give it a minute or so to allow people to join in, and then we'll kick off today's session. Still see a few people joining in, so we'll give it a few more seconds for everyone to join in, and then kick this off. All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining in. Today we are changing tech a little bit. Generally, we have fairly technical sessions and talk about TM1, cube designs, and things like that, or AI as to how AI can be infused in finance and be used to help with the productivity and with the insight. Today, we're taking a step back because one of the things we noticed with our clients are that a number of our clients or potential clients are still using legacy models or are on legacy platforms. And what we've also noticed is that we've got other applications like Anaplan and the others coming into those organizations, and we were wondering as to what is the reason, because we probably all, even the clients, agree that TM1 is a better tool, but it's become out of date and things like that. So today what we're talking about in a bit more detail is how to ensure that you are able to modernize your TM1 and bring it, infuse some more life into it, so it is a modern system. So when you do a comparison with a competition, or when you're looking internally and trying to maximize the value out of the investment you've made in the tool, you are making a genuine like for like comparison, and you understand what the true potential of the application is. So I'm Amendra. I run Octane Solutions. So we are a IBM Gold partner, and I've been a TM1 architect for a large part of the last 20 years, and we've seen all kinds of things. So in today's session, I'll be drawing upon the experience that I've gained and the things that we've seen and our teams have seen over the years, and try to discuss and share some of the things that we've got over the years. Hopefully you find this interesting, and if you do, please share it with others. So today, with what we'll be talking about is basically focusing on three key things that we think are the pillars to modernize your TM1 infrastructure. For those new to the game, I will be using TM1 and planning analytics interchangeably. So regardless of what I say, I mean IBM planning analytics TM1. So we'll go through the three things that we think will are the pillars. So first is the infrastructure side of things. So we'll discuss a bit on what the infrastructure considerations are. Then we'll also look at the architecture side of things, and how we support the application. So if you master these three things, you will have your TM1 application running on steroids within your organization. You will have application that people love and want to use more. And what you will find is that you will be building more and more functionality within the application, and you will have clients that are happy to use it, and you'll be delighting them. So hopefully it makes sense to you. I understand there are a number of consultants in today's session as well, so it will be interesting to get your point of view as well. So feel free to drop in what you think during the chat or within the chat, or if you have a question about something specific, feel free to put through. If we are not able to get to it today, we will get back to you and answer your questions after the session. So let's jump into it in a bit more detail and see where we are with the infrastructure side of things. Oh, before we go into that, the marketing has asked me to insert this slide into the session, so we know who we are. So about Octane, so we've this is our 10th year of operation. So we started in 2016. Before that, I used to be a TM1 architect in a company called Macquarie here in Sydney, and Macquarie is now one of our clients as well. So we've got over 40 staff. This is closer to 50 now. We're also looking for a good TM1 consultant. So if you are in this session, and if you are a TM1 consultant, and if you are think you're better than your peers, please do drop us a line. We are on the lookout for some great TM1 consultants. We have delivered more than 100 TM1 projects over the years. And we have just been voted or been awarded the number one IBM partner in the APEC region. So we're quite proud of that. We also have, and I'll talk a bit about the Octane Blue, our managed service support model. What we think is the reason that our clients use us and love us. Jumping into the main session now, what we see is the reality of the many TM1 environments. And this is more so true for sites that are still on premise, if you haven't moved to the cloud. Uh, Generally, despite the best intention, I think we dropped off for a minute there. Despite best intentions, what we find is if you are on premise, you generally are running on an out of date version, and a lot of the sites are running on versions that are going out of support as well. So that is generally a trigger for organizations to review where they are with TM1 and what they need to do. They either upgrade or look outside in the market and see are they using TM1 properly and things like that. So upgrade cycles is usually lagging by 3 to 5 years in most of the sites, because it's not easy to find the time and the resources to do the keep up to date with the upgrades, and this creates a technical debt and a security exposure as well. The other thing we see if you're not running a modern TM1 platform is that the shadow models tend to creep back in. And these are the things where scenarios like finance or the users asking for certain functionality, certain reports, or certain things that they want updated in their models. But because there is no prioritization on that, and there's no generally the cost of doing those things are quite high, those things are not done, and the users tend to revert to dumping data out into Excel, and we have shadow models running in Excel, which finance builds offline, and that erodes the trust in the platform, where it just ends up being a slow moving database where people just upload the budgets and the forecast and keep it there for reporting and a source of truth, but the day-to-day work doesn't happen there. So that's also a very risky area to be in. The other thing we see quite a bit of is consultant heavy ops. So to run, our view generally is once you build a model well, and you move away from it, it should run itself as much as possible. It should not require a constant tweaking. So think of it: if you buy a car, you don't need to have a mechanic sitting in the back seat. So in that same way, when you put a TM1 model in for your budgeting, forecasting, reporting, and things like that, you shouldn't need to have a consultant keep tweaking it on a day in day out basis. So every change or fix that you require, generally you shouldn't require someone. A business should be able to do that, and also a business keeps on evolving, so you will have new cost centers coming in, new accounts coming in. All those things should be considered normal BAU changes and should not require change in codes or change in cubes or tweaking the model. So that's something to be wary of. So if your environment is consultant heavy, you're probably in a risky zone as well. Combine all of that, slowly you find that your performance is degrading. You've got big cubes, and sort of it's very hard to change, very hard to use, very hard to be agile, and sort of the more data loads that are happening, it's getting slower and slower, and slowly it's like a bloated, overweight queue set of models sitting there. So these are some of the reality of a number of sites that we see. And today, this is what we're focusing on and trying to think about what can we do which doesn't break the bank and fixes the problem. The Out of the three things that we think you need to look at, the first one is infrastructure, figuring out are you on the right setup. You have Today you have three options available to you. You could be on prem, or you could be on the IBM cloud, or you could be on the SaaS model. It's available in Australia on AWS. In other markets, it's AWS and or Azure as well. So depending on where you are in the world, you will have access to either or both of them. Talking about the on-premise first, so this was the traditional way that we used to do TM1 way back in the days before SaaS came about. Um, you have full control. You run your own servers. There's a certain level of comfort that you're running it on your own servers. You're controlling the memories and all kinds of things. However, it does come with a cost. So you will have to buy your own servers. The servers will go will require upgrade at certain times. The patching, the security, everything becomes your responsibility. So you need to have your IT team working closely with you, or your TM1 team working closely with the IT teams to ensure everything is in sync, and you are running the sort of the latest version. What we see is that it's, despite best intention, never happens. There are other priorities, it won't get upgraded. It also brings about a element of risk as well in today's age, where you control the security and who can access the different data sets and things like that. So that's something that, unless in we our recommendation is that unless for some particular reason, generally compliance in certain regulated industries, if this is not required, try and move off the on-prem onto one of the cloud versions. It might seem like a cheaper option to be on-prem for some of the clients, but when you add up the amount of time it takes to run the on-prem environment, the amount of resources you put in running the on-prem environment, you will find that the cost benefit is better on the cloud version. And the cloud price keeps on getting cheaper and cheaper as you go. The next option, which came about a few years ago, which is the IBM managed hosting, which is on the IBM cloud. This is IBM running the TM1 application for you. They will manage the updates, the upgrades. It will reduce or eliminate the infrastructure burden on your team. And this is best for teams who want to run TM1, not focus on putting all their TM1 budget and resources in keeping the TM1 up and running, but focus their budget on getting better functionality out of it. Now, last year, what we now have available to us is TM1 PA available to us via AWS. So this is the latest version of TM1. It's version 12. Functionality wise, all three are same. So version 12 is now available on-prem as well. But when you look at PO and PEX, the functionality is replica in all of the environments. So you're not going to miss out on any of the functionality in the upgrades or features and things like that. Even the AI functionality is available across all three. AWS, the difference between AWS and the IBM cloud is that AWS engine is built on the latest version, on version 12. It is meant to be built for, it's fully cloud native. The thing that we like about the AWS version is that it's elastic in the way that you can buy in increments of 16 gigs. So for example, your RAM, you can buy in increments of 16 gig, whereas in IBM, after a certain point, you'll have to move to the premium instance, this big jump. So elasticity in being able to scale up is easier in the AWS environment. It's probably got the lowest infrastructure cost overhead as well. and we feel that it's the best. The performance is slightly better in from what we see. We've also moved on-prem onto AWS. We've also moved the IBM SaaS onto AWS. So the models are fairly interchangeable. So you can do a lift and shift from any of this environment on the others. There are certain things that you need to know around how to connect, and especially with the data sources when you bring in. The AWS one probably leans itself to modern connectivity using APIs and all that a bit more than the others. But generally, if you forget the back end, the front end experience for all of them would be pretty much same. Our recommendation in this case is that it's you if you are on prem, you are in a risky zone unless you've got a dedicated team that looks after the upgrades and things like that. Our recommendation is you either need to be on the on the IBM, or preferably on the AWS if you are doing it today. So how do we go around to upgrading? Obviously, we do the baseline assessment, so we need to understand what the current versions are, environment health, the customization, bottlenecks, and things like that, and the volumes. To make there's also a commercial implication to this as well. So we need to understand all of that, how much of history you're taking over, and stuff like that. Then we'd be doing the infrastructure decision in trying to decide which one is best suited for your needs. And then it also needs to align with the IT, the security, the finance stakeholders. And then we do the lift and validate. So we have done all, we've got a dedicated team that all they do is upgrades. So moving models into different environments. So we've got a pretty good handle on and a checklist mechanism. So when the team comes in and looks at we moving from on-prem to AWS, for example, they've got a certain checklist which they go through and work with IBM and get that. There's certain things that are still considered a bit risky around if you have legacy Excel macros and VBA codes and things like that, which we need to provide an extra care of. But this in today's day, it's relatively straightforward and easy for us to do the migration. And once the migration is done, then we have to do a little bit of tuning depending on which environment you are moving to, how the backups are working, the monitoring, the access controls, all of those things we sort of optimize for the particular version that you're going to. And that becomes that now that you've ticked off the infrastructure side of modernizing. So if this is extremely sort of topical, if you are on prem, you should be looking at this now. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. Is what we think. The modern architecture. Sorry. The principles of modern TM1 architecture is around more metadata, purpose-built cubes, reporting layer. Just a minute. This is page. So the second thing we need to look at is the sort of the architecture. So once we have optimized the infrastructure, the second thing we need to look at is the architecture. So whereas moving to the cloud helps, it doesn't help with the poor design. And what the principles of modern TM1 architecture is that it should be metadata driven. And what we've seen is legacy models, especially if there are a number of consultants who've come and worked on your model over different years, in its own right, each one of the development or each one of the work that has been done is correct for what the purpose was. But when you look at it from an overall point of view, does it fit in with the modern architecture principle? So some of the things that we live by is that it has to be metadata driven design as to how your dimensions are brought in and built and designed. The purpose-built cubes, like we need to, and I'll talk a bit more about the details of this as to how you need to structure the cubes, your input layer, your processing layer, and your reporting layer. you break it up. We tend to over design to ensure that it's scalable in the future as well, and you can add things and remove things without affecting the model. So it has to be a modular design. Now that we've got access to POS, our dashboard, and PFAs with the Excel reporting, it's always good to decouple the reporting layer. So the reporting layer hooks up to the relevant cubes and does that. So if there are changes in the cubes, you don't need to go around changing the reporting layer as well. So that should be automatically updated as we go. So these are all the things that will allow you to reduce the cost of support. You don't need to have someone sitting there tuning up these things and obviously forgetting things. So when you go for a month-end report, and if the cost center is not rolling up, we built in sort of things that will show that up pretty easily. Performance by default. This anyone who has been working with TM1 would understand this past data handling, how to sort of tune up the feeders and things like that. More and more, one day AI will do this for us, but for now, you still need a TM1 consultant to do these things. So one of the things that we always hone in on is performance, not just for today, but as we increase. So as we add uh, more sort of time dimension comes in, more years comes in, more scenarios come in, more versions come in. How will the cube behave? How will the performance behave, and things like that. Cloud aware security. This is important. One of the criticisms for TM1, and sometimes rightly so, is it sits in a corner in the finance and does its thing and is not aware of the overall security that the organization is thinking about. So we especially when we work in an enterprise environment, you need to be aware of what the security design should be and how it aligns with the what the enterprise wants as well. Built-in change management. So this is something which comes with the design philosophy of being able to ensure that you develop in a way that you as the environment changes, as the model evolves, it does not require full rebuild and changes and things like that. It should flow fairly easily. So the thing we say is moving to the cloud is not modernization on its own. If you take poor architecture onto a better infrastructure, it still is poor architecture. Modern TM1 architecture shifts the platform from sort of reactive to more proactive business support. End of the day, we have to keep in mind, why is the organization buying the tool? What is it going to use for? We do come across situations where we have TM1 developers who've built it over the years and really passionate about the model, hanging on to things that are not not relevant to the business anymore. And those are the places. We actually came across an organization that was looking to move away from TM1 because they just could not get their in-house TM1 developer to see what the business wanted to do and where they wanted to go, and it became too much of a friction point that they felt it was easier to just move systems than to try and convince a TM1 developer. I'm sure there are a few in this room as well who are very passionate about TM1, but are not willing to change and move on with the times. The some of the symptoms of legacy architecture that we see is that the design or the black box mentality, where things are designed and built in a way that it's very hard to explain and it's very hard to drill through and get to the formula, get to the data, and understand how it's made up. The logic, especially the rules in the old days, that built on top of over the years, is become so tangled that it's become very, very difficult. Recently, and not just recently, there's been a number of cases where we've gone in and we've actually found it cheaper and easier to rebuild end to end the full TM1 model than try and fix a really old design in a model. So some of the things to consider up if you are in that situation with the current modern way of looking at things, it just might be easier to scrap what you have and rebuild it. uh, hard coded dimensional logic. These are some of the banes of what we see and go. It needs to be fixed. Source data mixed with the reporting logic, or the TI is bringing in the source data having logic inbuilt that's so detailed that it changes a lot of things. So it's very hard to reconcile to the source. Bloated dimension, unused dimensions sitting in the models, chewing up memory. Um, the big one is things that we don't see, which is the knowledge debt and the key person dependency. Sometimes what we find is that key person or key team dependency, where how TM1 works around the month end or certain series of TIs is known only by one person. If you don't see a number in the cube or the right number in the cube, there's only one person who can debug it, and that is very risky as well. So what are the symptoms or the signs of a modern architecture, of something that you should be seeing and sort of looking at? So it's purpose built modular cubes. You have a separate staging area. You have a certain core cubes, reporting cubes is broken up. It might, especially to the old school TM1 developers, it might look like we are over designing or we are overkilling the model. But those are some of the foundational stuff that you need to do to ensure that you can scale up as you go. I've spoken about the metadata, having the config table. So when you need to do a month rollover or a version rollover, you change in the config cube and everything changes downstream, things like that. Model transparency, having some standards around the naming conventions, data lineage. Those things are fundamental these days. Feeder strategy is very important, especially we used to see a lot of overfeeding, especially in the older models, just for safety's sake. But these days, I don't think we need to do that much. So having the right feeder strategy is also quite important, and designing for change. So not designing for what the requirement is today, but understanding what the implication would be for the business for the future, and ensuring that the model rolls in with what the future requirements are. A typical modern TM1 model would look something like this, where you'll have a separate the data sources, how the data sources are coming in from your different GL sources, external data sources, HR, and so forth. Your other data loads. You'll have your ETL or the staging area, calculation engine, the input layer where the users would go in and put in the inputs, the budgeting, forecasting, the logics, the workflows, the approvals, all of that in the input layer and the reporting layer. And those are in relative sync as well. Security is overlaid on top of it. And this will mean that while it may look like that there are many different areas, but once you build it in this proper way, you'd be able to scale up, A, and B, you'd find it quite easy to maintain and manage and support. And third thing would be that you'd find that the logic is retained in a way that if you need to change something, you're only changing parts of the model and everything else would be in sync. So this is something that we do and recommend. The coming back to the third pillar that we see that will help you modernize your TM1 is how you support it. We did talk briefly about the key person dependency. So that's something that we eliminate using how we support the model. So we need to move away from the reactive break fix mentality to a more managed service, and why it will change things for the finance teams. And this is one of the things which is fundamental to ensuring that TM1 stays in your organization and is used by everyone. So firstly, looking at how TM1 support has traditionally worked, and the reason it fails, right? So basically, user raises a ticket when something breaks and a consultant is engaged. The consultant could be in-house TM1 developer or from your external partner as well. And then investigation starts from scratch, and that cycle continues every time. And sometimes you'd have different consultant coming in, and then taking some extra time to understand the background as well. There's no formal health checks. There's no formal sort of understanding of what are the sort of the pain points or the pain areas or potential fix breakages coming into the future. And there's also no sort of looking at what tickets were raised in the last 6 months and what can we do to ensure that those tickets do not come again. And that if if out of this webinar, if you do nothing else but just do that, your environment will transform in the next few months. Look at what happened in the last, what problems and issues cropped up in the last 6 months, and do and prioritize what you're doing to fix them so it doesn't happen again. The knowledge silos. So TM1 generally sits knowledge. In the old days used to sit with a consultant or a person inside finance, or someone who's in the IT but is administrating TM1. And generally the tickets, if you have formal ticketing or informally, go to them and they would fix it. And that's something that you need to eliminate if you want to run it as a proper modern system, because if that person leaves or if that person doesn't know how to fix it, he will provide workarounds and things like it. It just ends up into a bigger and bigger mess each preceding month. Upgrades are expensive. That's why we encourage everyone to move to the cloud, so you don't have to worry about upgrading. You're always on the latest version. We have yet to come across a site that is on prem and is running on the latest version. None. If you have one, I would love for you to drop it in the chat, and we'd like to understand how you're running that you're always up on the latest version. And obviously no SLA. The users don't know when the issue is going to be fixed, who's going to fix it, and things like that. So it always creates that anxiety around the budgeting period or the uh, core areas when you use TM1. Could be month end budgeting or anything like that. There's also a cost associated to that. So 60% of the TM1 support spend is on reactive stuff. So not on predicting and fixing things in the future for the future, but what's broken. And we all know from all the different studies that have been done that it's about 3 to 5 times more expensive to fix production issues than to prevent them. We also know that 40% of the finance team report Excel shadow models growing alongside TM1. So there's a good chance that all of us who are in this session today, the around half of us have got our teams have got shadow Excel sitting alongside TM1 doing some of the workload. And the time to resolve these things is also high. So 72 hours is what it takes. How we've eliminated that as part of the modernization game that we play is we've put in our support model called Octane Blue. Some of the key features. So you don't have to use us for this. You can try and do it yourself, but it would be cheaper, better if you talk to us for this. Is proactive health monitoring. So continuous monitoring of your environment. The architecture review, understanding. So that review includes what were the support tickets, what architecture issues, what changes are coming up, things like that, and planning for that. And this becomes a fundamental roadmap for your TM1 and the list of things and the prioritization meetings. Finance alignment is very important as to understanding the finance calendar, the core usage periods, and things like that. SLA response in any modern support organization. This is a fundamental sort of lifeline as to how you run support. Upgrade management. If you choose to remain on-prem, there is upgrade management, understanding when the new features or the new patches are coming in and ensuring that there is no security risk or no upgrade risk in there. And the other thing which is subtle but helps a lot is the knowledge transfer and training. So internally, if we are running your TM1 using Octane Blue, we manage how different people are exposed to the knowledge, and the knowledge transfer happens. So there is no single person within Octane that will have the knowledge of your model. So it doesn't matter who's on call, but the person, there's going to be not a key. So we don't want you moving your key person dependency problem onto Octane as well. So we manage that internally to ensure that doesn't happen. And the other thing that happens is training. So we've got a number of training portals, and sort of training sessions that we do throughout the year that you have access to, which allows you to get trained up, your users trained up in the new features, functions, and features. What we find in with the cloud environment is the functions and features are dropping quite quickly on every 6 weeks or so, and being able to understand that and to use that, the relevant features in the organization is missing because we're not exposed to what's coming in and how to use that. So we try to impart that knowledge and sort of make it relevant as to whether it's something suitable for your environment and if you should be doing that. The other key stats around this is what we found is that using a proper external us, or you could run this internally, is you should be able to reduce about 35% of the cost of ownership. You would have if you go through this process and do those six things, you would have optimized your licensing, you've optimized the support, you've optimized where you put your resources in. Overall, within few months, you'll start seeing a reduction in the cost of ownership. And we've got more stats on that. So if you're interested how we came up with the number and all that, just let us know and we'll give you all the details. uh, I'll just very quickly go through. So this is not meant to be a sales session. So we've got, and all of this information is available on our website. So we've got three different ways of looking at it: Octane Green, Octane Blue, and Octane Black. And it's got different pricing. All our pricing is on our website as well. So there's no mystery, there's no hidden cost anywhere. And we can talk more about that if you're so interested. But I won't go into the details of this today. The roadmap. Generally, if you're looking at modernization, so you don't want it to be a modernization project that takes 18 months. So this is a quick and easy steps that you can take, which will modernize your infrastructure and your architecture. So you in the first couple of weeks, what you'll do is you look at the architecture, do a health check, look at the infrastructure that you're currently sitting on, audit that, look at the cost, and also look at the support model. Then the next step would obviously be to do the infrastructure strategy, figure out what you're doing with the infrastructure. Are you remaining on prem? Are you going to the cloud? Are you happy with the cloud but you need to jig the licensing or something? Architecture improvement plan. The health check will show up, you blow uh, give you a highlight of the key priorities that you need to do to improve your architecture, change your architecture. So you could use that 3 to 4 weeks to prioritize what are the changes, what are the key things it will do. And for the support model, we would recommend just onboard Octane Blue for support and be done with it, and that will take care of your support. However, you don't have to do that. You can try and do it internally or try and do that with your existing partner. Then what you'll start seeing in the month 2 to 4 is the if you need to do a cloud migration, you probably get that schedule, work out the licensing and things like that. You'd start seeing the benefits of the architecture improvements within by the fourth month, I would guess, and the managed service would kick in. After that, what would happen is you go into a optimize mode, which is ongoing. Quarterly architecture review meetings would start, and continuous performance tuning and things like that, and how you manage your support, the knowledge transfer, the training, and all that. The calendars will start dropping in. Once you get that ongoing mechanism set up, things just keep improving from that point onward. You only focus on what are the priorities, what are the things we need to improve, and go from there. If for the clients, for the number of clients that we've taken them through this, these are some of the very, very compelling stats. So you will see faster budgeting cycles. This also goes for the month end as well. So if you're using TM1 extensively for your month end reporting and things like that, you will see extensive speed of how the month end is being done. You will see reduction in data errors because we would have fixed most of the things that cause these data errors, how the TIs are running, how the rules are set up. All of that will improve. We would have built in the exceptions, pick up the data issues before it gets to the users. Upgrade cycles. This is relevant for those who choose to remain on-prem, safer and quicker upgrade cycles. And the most interesting stats that I thought was that there was 0 outages during month end. If you do all of those foundational work, you will have 0 outage during month end. Bold statement, but that's what the data tells us. So if you're still having outages at month end and frustrations and things like that, this is the time to have a look at that and implement these strategies. With that, what we've also come up with is a more detailed TM1 modernization roadmap. So I'll keep this on the screen. And if you need to download the detailed roadmap, you can download this here. And if you also need to think about how much will it cost to upgrade, regardless of which environment you are in. If you're on the IBM SES and you're thinking about, I wonder how much AWS cost, not just the cost of license, but also cost to upgrade. So we'd be able to, if you click on that, we'd be able to give you that as well. With that, we've come to the end of today's session. So I'm happy to take any questions. We've got some time left today. If you have got any questions, I'm happy to take that today, or you put it in the chat. We are across multiple channels, so it's from where I'm sitting. It's difficult for me to see all the questions, but we'd be able to get back and answer that. I'll leave this on the screen for a minute or so, and let you get the downloads. Okay. Okay, one of the questions that's come in is, what is the cost of the Octane support? All our support prices are on our website, and what I might do is I'll just open that and show you where to go. Just a minute. So if you go to our website, apart from all the different things that we have on support, if you go to support, this is the current pricing. So expect, we generally, the price is reviewed at the end of the year. Currently the price stands as this for Australian dollars. Since I'm on the website, the other thing, if you are into your TM1, is go to the Knowledge Hub, and you will have a lot of the tech blogs that our team does, and also a number of case studies. So there are two things that we do, TM1 and what's an orchestrate. So you will see a number of blogs and details and technical articles around TM1 and also what's an orchestrate, if you're interested. Just a minute, I'll scan the questions again. All right. How long? One of the things that come up is how long does it take? I did speak very briefly about that. So uh, expect expect change. So you can start. Probably takes about 4 weeks to set all of this up and put it in motion. You should be able to start seeing results in around 4 months. Is what we see. If you've got a larger site, then it might take longer to embed the support model, the architecture changes and things like that. But this is something that we work with the clients very closely in order to prioritize what are the key things that need to be done. Some clients have issues around how they access the data, how and things like that. So that might be the priority. Some clients have issues around how their cubes are structured. It's a mosh pit of cubes talking to each other, some secular reference. So depending on what the problems is, we'll look at that and prioritize and get that fixed. Okay. All right. There are a few other questions, but we are running out of time now. So we'll take the questions and reply to that. If you have any other related questions or queries, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on any of our platforms, and we'd be able to help you out and give you more details. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.